What was the 4.2 Kiloyear event? And was this a crucial factor in the end of the Saraswati Sindhu era in India? All right, that's a great question. So, in the past, you may remember I have spoken about an ancient geopolitical event between India and the Akkadian Empire that was in the 43rd century BC. Sorry, that was in the 23rd century BC. It was in the year 2200 something BC or so. There was this king called Rimush of Akkad. He was the second king of the Akkadian Empire. He was the son of the great Sargon of Akkad. He ruled for less than a decade, but he went to war with the people of Ilam and with the people of Marhashi, and the people of Ilam and Marhashi, they had allies in India. And India at the time was what we call the so-called Indus Valley civilization, Saraswati Sindhu civilization, and it is recorded in the Akkadian chronicles that the Indians sent soldiers to the aid of Marhashi and Ilam, and apparently the Akkadians won that conflict. So India participated in a war outside of what was traditionally called India, in what is now Persia or Iran. Yeah, and it was with the Akkadian Empire, which was based in what is now Iraq. So this event happened in the 2200s BC, between 22 around 2275, 2278 or something BC. That's when it happened. About a century after that, we have the 4.2 Kiloyear event. A century or so after this war, yeah, after Rimush of Akkad. So this 4.2 Kiloyear event happened in the 22nd century BC. In the 23rd century BC, we had this war with Rimush. So this 4.2 Kiloyear event was about a century. It lasted about a century or so. It was a century of drought, approximately 100 years of very less rainfall and significant drought worldwide, globally, in India, in China, in the Middle East, in Africa. Drought everywhere. Yeah. So around this time, we know that the great Saraswati River, which was a rain-fed river which originated in the Himalayas and went all the way into the Sea of Saurashtra, which is now called spuriously the Arabian Sea. This river was already declining. The Indian monsoon started declining monotonically around 6000 BC. Slow decline of the Indian monsoon. Because of this, the Saraswati River started declining too, slowly and gradually. And because of this 4.2 Kiloyear event, this decline was significantly precipitated, and it's probably around this time that the river stopped reaching the sea, and it ended in this big lake, which eventually dried out, and it is now called the Thar Desert. The Thar Desert. Let's go once again back to the map. So if you go to India, to Western India, we have the great Thar Desert. You see the entire region of Rajasthan. Yeah, it's all brownish, yellowish over here. Yeah, that is the enormous Thar Desert. Most likely, the Saraswati River dried out and stopped reaching the sea, and it ended up in a big lake or puddle or marsh in this region, which eventually dried out and gave rise to all the sand dunes, the kind of thing that you see in the Aral Sea today, the same sort of thing. Yeah, when a big lake or sea dries out, what you get is a desert with sand dunes and all that. So most likely, as a result of the 4.2 Kiloyear event, the river stopped reaching the sea. And yes, this most likely was a crucial factor in the end of the Saraswati Sindhu era in Western India. So, Western India, the Sapta Sindhu region, which is the region of the Sindhu River, the great Indus River, the Saraswati, which no longer exists mostly, and the various other rivers in this region. This was a very fertile region, and that's where you had the main focus of the civilization of that time, our civilization of that time, which historians call the Indus Valley or Harappan civilization. So around this time, because of the drying out of the Saraswati and very less monsoon and all that, there were significant migrations out of the region. And these migrations most likely started around this time, around the 4.2 Kiloyear event. And people were forced to migrate to other parts of the region. Many of them went eastwards, many of them went northwards. Northwards, you still had lots of water, many rivers. India obviously is a river valley civilization. So you had the Ganga River Valley, Narmada River Valley, the Yamuna River Valley, and so many more. So people were forced to give up the lifestyle they had been living for several thousand years, and they were forced to migrate to other parts of India. But the migrations were not only eastwards into what we now call mainland India. Many of these migrations were also westwards. Yeah. And it's around this time that you have the infamous rampage of the so-called Yamnaya men across Europe, right? And it's around this time also that you have various other things happening which indicate Indian presence far west of India. So yes, the 4.2 kilo year event was a major period of drought. Approximately, it lasted approximately a century of drought, and yes, it was definitely a crucial factor in a complete reconfiguration of society and life in the Indian subcontinent and in various other parts of the world. And it could be what precipitated the gradual decline of what we call the Saraswati Sindhu civilization, that phase of Indian civilization, or the Harappan phase or the Indus Valley phase. Yeah. So slowly these cities they were slowly abandoned, and people moved elsewhere, and eventually the cities fell out of use, and they are the way we see them now. So that was the 4.2 kilo year event. It was a major drought, and it kind of reconfigured life all across the planet.